This week in the world, Asmondgold might actually be racist if his comments on Palestine are to be believed. Popular actor Simu Liu is trying to start a pointless cultural war in Canada. And World War III might be on next year's calendar as North Korea lands troops in Ukraine to assist Russia. Starting off with everyone's favorite mad lad, Donnie, was assassinated. Not actually, but at this point somebody really wishes that was the case, as a third attempt was made on the former president's life. This time allegedly at a rally in Coachella. The suspect, a Mr. Miller, a 49-year-old living in Las Vegas, was stopped at a checkpoint heading into the event. Amongst his inventory was a handgun, a shotgun, and a high-capacity magazine. He was also found to have a multitude of fake identification, including 7 fake passports, a fake license plate, and both a fake VIP pass and media pass. All of that sounds extremely damning, I'm sure, but it's not nearly as cut and dry as you would hope, as Mr. Miller is self-described as far-right, whereas the arresting officers and the county sheriff, Chad Bianco, claim that Miller was in fact politically lost. Furthermore, his threat level was perceived as so unconceivably low that this would-be assassin allegedly on the president's life had his bail set to only $5,000. Now, there's 2 camps of thoughts on this. Bianco is a super cop and with the help of his colleagues managed to stop the Lee Harvey of their time, or the second, which I subscribe to, Miller is more than likely just a prepper. The fake everything is explained away by the fact that he's probably extremely anti-government as a result and would prefer as much autonomy as possible. I don't have any proof to say that he's a prepper, but there is a common link between far-right viewing people and those individuals, and that's why I have the same reasoning for the guns that he was carrying. That doesn't explain away the fake press or the fake VIP pass, but to me it's more likely that he just wanted to meet his hero. Do I actually think this was one of the many attempts on former President Donald Trump's life? Probably not. I think the sheriff was just dreaming up hero fantasies, as both the Secret Service and FBI concluded that Miller was not a threat. As I've said to any woman older than 70, you're the only thing that can make this happen, baby girl. Just like SpaceX seems to be the only one who can actually bring sci-fi to reality, with the world's first reusable rocket booster being caught by their device, elegantly called the chopsticks. I am of the mindset that space overall is pretty much light and love. As call me when a boy can travel to Mars in the same way I can travel to Madrid and actually enjoy myself, but I will admit that this technology is insanely cool. There's 2 main limiters when it comes to advanced space travel. 1, the cost of operation, and 2, the inability to actually reuse materials. This solves both problems and could be utilized in the future to propel rockets much greater distances. Just imagine, if you would, being able to fly off a planet, leave your boosters behind, and when you return, being able to use those same boosters again as yet another launch. It is legit mind-blowing and an absolute feat of engineering. So yes, I must concede, Mr. Musk, who I think is a bloated whale, and I think Mr. Musk is a daddy's boy who plays at being Tony Stark when he's just an advanced nepo baby, and I think Mr. Musk is an insane narcissist who's not nearly as smart as he claims to be and just steals others' work, and I also think Mr. Musk is a weird cock goblin for Trump in spite of being South African. I must admit this is pretty sweet. Moving on to a bit more of a regressive endeavor, we have a Mr. Simu Liu making waves on his appearance of Dragon's Den, where Simu was amongst the many sharks, or whatever the fuck the show is called, as an investor. It was on this particular episode, I'm almost certain for drama purposes, the shark dragons were approached by a boba tea company that claimed to be making a more healthy alternative to traditional boba tea on the market. That is a drink, at least in its modern form that I can tell, originates from Taiwan in the 1980s. A tidbit Simu was quick to point out and take a few issues with. His first criticism was a lack of pointing out the historical significance of boba tea, i.e. where it originates from. He also took issue with the idea of these, I don't know if they're white, I don't think they are white people, but for the sake of argument, these white people taking away something that's traditionally Asian and attempting to make profit off it without the quote appropriate representation, before going on to state that the reason he started his venture capital, i.e. why he was on the Shark Dragon show, was in order to fund minorities, without really explaining what type of minorities he meant, something I will get back to in a minute because it's relevant to this. Of course, this set off the worst possible side of TikTok ablaze, with the unrational screaming yes queen and slay, even though Mr. Liu did not explain what he meant at all. I want to preference this next little bit by saying I am not Benny Boy, I do not give a wet shit about politics, and I'd rather spend my time being a player trying to get this paper. But I will say this with, my chest out and my face on display, can we please stop pretending that Asians are somehow an empowered minority? Dude, 4 of the top GDPs globally are Asian countries. Statistically globally, Asians are more well represented than any other race in higher education, which as a natural result leads to high-paying jobs. Furthermore, Asia is easily the wealthiest continent on the entire planet, with some of the highest standards of living, from disposable income, life expectancy, healthcare, greater access to cheap and luxury goods, and also not to mention that they have the most billionaires on their continents than anywhere else in the world. There's 814 in China alone. Fuck you, dude. I'm not turning this into a political thing, but if I was black, I would be pissed off. Like me and my oaks, bro, we curb stomped Africa and took all the wealth for ourselves. That's the reality of it. These Asian oaks, on the other hand, they historically did it to themselves and then fought amongst themselves. And even after all of that infighting, almost every single one of them rose from the ashes way more prominent than before. While Africa is literally still burning. Then they want to act like they can somehow relate on the minority oppression tier list for something that is inherently a silly idea. Nah, I'm not having it, man. It's cheeky. It's really fucking cheeky. And to further point it out, Simu Liu, the man who has such a problem with cultural appropriation and sponsoring minorities, which I'm assuming he means Asian people who do not need it, is Chinese in origin who happen to grow up in Canada. Do you want to know the rate of higher education amongst the Asian demographic in Canada? Over 50%. Literally, if you factor in the overall Asian demo, meaning Korean, Japanese, West Asians, and even the Filipinos, it is 50% over any other ethnic group. God, I wish I was black right now, dude. I would be so angry. This is so disrespectful. With racial tensions on the mind, we go over to Twitch. As popular MMO streamer and professional NEET, Asmondgold, said some not pretty chilled things about Palestine. What exactly did he say? Well, I think it would be a little bit easier if I let him speak for himself.
Genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing. That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Oh, that's bad. I mean, I gotta be straight, dude. I was trying to hear the guy out. I thought he was like building to a larger point. But dude, you referred to a group of brown people as inferior. There's just no defense. For his efforts, Mr. Hoyt, as he's referred to, has received a temporary ban that is rumored to last about 14 days. In the meantime, he has taken to Twitter to apologize for his comments, as well as followed up with a video on his own YouTube channel. But this isn't Philip DeFranco, bro. We only focus on hard-hitting news here and not random internet comments. Like, get your tits out for the boys. It's a chant I've heard more times than I can count on both of my hands. However, I don't think it will be sung for very much longer, as it seems that the tides are starting to shift, with the WSL in England seeming to grow in massive popularity, as evidenced by probably the first bit of football hooliganism the sport's ever seen, as some ultra fan spray painted outside of Hornsey Road the simple words of Jonas out, referring to the Arsenal women's manager, Jonas Edvall. And yeah, I just think that's kind of nice. It's just kind of cool to see like the roots of the sport growing in popularity. It might even explode and get like a whole 20 fans in their next stadium game. Baby, you light up my world like nobody else, and you slip off of balconies when you're not feeling well. Let me stop before this gets too fucked up. Liam Payne, of One Direction fame at the age of 31, has tragically passed away in Argentina when he fell from a third-story balcony at the hotel called Casa Sur Hotel in the capital. As of right now, police are leaning towards an accidental death, but have stated the circumstances were suspicious. They also further clarified by saying they found no defensive wounds on Mr. Payne's body, and indications that Payne was on a mixture of alcohol and over-the-counter medications. Minutes before his death, the hotel staff had called the police as, according to the manager, a guest, being Liam, was destroying his hotel room, and basically going on an insane rampage. As of right now, it's being speculated that Liam was going through a sort of relapse, with a nice combination of a mental health crisis, something he has suffered with in both public and private life alike. Hopefully, Mr. Payne's death can reunite the careers through tragedy, as the world world's most well-guarded border has seen tensions flare over this past week, with surprise surprise, the North being a diva and blowing up bridges connecting the two. I'm gonna butcher these next words, but bear with me. The bridges that were blown up were the Goingi line and the Donghae line. It's not racist, that's just how it's pronounced. As to the why they were blowing up these spots, no one really knows. This is something the Kim dynasty literally does every 2 to 3 years. They play nice with the Western world and their Asian neighbors for a little bit, then they shit their own pants and say who did it. It is honestly just bipolarism at this point. The best estimate as to why that North Korea is trying to raise tensions is Kim's government has claimed that South Korea was sending over drones trying to spread propaganda amongst their citizens. In retaliation, the North Koreans sent over balloons full of trash into South Korean territory to make it all dirty. Will this lead to World War III? Probably not. It's just them trying to puff their chest out again, as a declaration of war against their southern neighbors would immediately lead the North to being abandoned by China, and then the Americans and South just pummeling them. War on the mind, we go over to Ukraine, as their fight against the Russians nears its 3-year mark, with the signs of fatigue starting to show. But nevertheless, Ukrainian Prime Minister has outlined his victory plan to the Ukraine Parliament. How they plan on going about winning the eventual war starts off with a few key points. The first one being invited to join NATO, which won't happen. The second, getting the go-ahead from their allies to use long-range rockets against Russian forces. Non-nuclear Russian ground containment, which I don't even know if the Ukraine military is capable of. Getting overall protection status from the EU and the US, which maybe. And changing some of the US troops stationed in Europe with Ukrainian ones. If you were to ask me earnestly what I think the overall outcome of the war is probably going to be, more than likely will end in Ukraine's defeat and Zelensky drinking some irradiated tea. But for now, it seems that they at least have a fighting chance and are given a good go of it. And there seems to be some good indicators on the Ukrainian side, as Russia's gotten so desperate that they've called in the North Koreans that we just spoke about to deploy ground troops in the overall war. As of reporting right now, there's 1,500 set to make their appearance on the battlefield, with up to at least 12,000 in total potentially coming soon. Time will tell if they can stand through all of this on their own, at least in terms of personnel, but we'll just have to wait and see. Ofcom has issued warnings to all relevant social media giants in the UK that they could face extremely hefty fines of at least up to 10% of their global revenue if they don't clean up their acts and work within the new Online Safety Act being implemented next year. According to Dame Mullane, and I know that's a real name, it's not a comic book character I made up, a chief executive officer of Ofcom, it is the responsibility of the providers of internet services and not the parents or the guardians to ensure the safety of online users. A thing I flat out disagree with, and I overall think this is an awful idea, as a website can't be held responsible for all of the content consumed on their platform, and I would go even further and state the obvious. It is in the user agreement. In almost all of those terms of services you sign up for, they'll always say that they'll try and do 100% moderation, but on occasion things are going to slip through the cracks. Furthermore, this is just giving the government a license to take out whoever they want, as it's already happened in the past, and this is just giving them even more tools to go after dissenters. It's honestly crazy how many laws keep getting implemented within the UK that is just going to make it a repressive government. Before I carry on though, because I know someone's already typing it into that comment section, yeah, the UK's not free unlike the US of A. I want you as the person who is that stupid to genuinely believe that, to go to the toilet, dig out a turd and shove it in your mouth, because you are talking shit. You are not free in the US. You have laws that oppress you as well. You have this insane idea that you have the right to open carry, so you're more liberated than any other country. They allow you to have those rifles because it makes them money. If they weren't profiting off you, you would never, ever, ever have the right for those guns. That industry literally lobbies Congress every year to continue to let you have that right, so they can carry on being billionaires while more bullets go into children's backs. And then you're stupid enough to think because you have this rifle or this machine gun that you and Cleet and Deke would be able to take on the American government if it came to it. Well, I've got news for you, bro. Your puny AK-47 or your high-powered scope sniper rifle is useless against a fucking Apache helicopter. You idiots! The UK and the US isn't free. It's only as free as the government allows you to be when it suits them. The only place that is truly free is Epstein's Island. Finally, in our last story of the day, Mr. Beast is not too keen on Israel. Is what you would think if you were in the suburbs of Chicago on Wednesday, when a bunch of billboards were hacked in the Northbrook area that plastered old Jimmy's face on it with the words Israel and death to Israel with the Palestinian flag flowing in the back. Mr. Beast, of course, had nothing to do with this, wink wink, with an employee of his PR team putting out a statement straight away, denying his involvement outright. Like, dude, we know you didn't do it. That would be insane. I gave the Palestine people over one rifle to protect themselves with. When the children living there touched my heart after I found out they were routinely shot by IDF forces for flying kites because they were, quote, scary. The company behind the billboard, Outfront Media, is currently working with the police to track down this, quote, anti-Semitic hacker, who I am sure will use the whole brute force of the law because a couple of Jewish people got their feelings hurt. To make it clear, the nation of Israel and the religion of Judaism are two separate entities in of itself, and having rightful criticism of a nation that is currently actively killing children is not in of itself anti-Semitic. With that all being said, that is this week's news. A big thank you as always for watching, boys and girls, and I will see you later. Bye bye.